Welcome to Compass Points, the weekly podcast for CompassKnox.com. CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more.
Welcome to Compass Points, a podcast about Knoxville and Knox County government, politics, education, business, just about anything within the borders of our fair county that we are drawn to. So I'm Scott Barker, the editor of Compass, a subscription-based website and newsletter where we report on all those topics and more. And you can find us at CompassKnox.com, joined by Compass co-founder Jesse Mayshark. And Jesse, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. It's a little chilly out here, but I mean, it's January. Can't really complain about that. Happy to see you back here, Scott. We missed you last week.
Yeah. Be careful when you say I'm sick. I actually got a source who texted me to check to see if I was gonna pull through, that I was.
Your fans worry about you.
Well, I don't know if they were fans. They were wanting
your dedication to the craft.
They were probably wanting to know if they needed to complain to me or to you.
Right.
So, but no, I'm fine. It was.
I think the technical term I used was under the weather, which can cover a broad array of maladies.
That is more accurate too. It wasn't anything serious or anything. So thank goodness. So. Anyway, I'm here just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed today, and as always, and of course he was instrumental last week in keeping the banter going with you. We're joined by Lord Seth Barber, our esteemed producer, engineer, jack of all trades. Seth, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm still recovering from Jesse calling me less than a full human and introducing me last week. So I'm glad you're back to at least acknowledge my complete existence as a singular.
I said I was flying quasi solo.
Do you actually think that I am going to affirm your humanity?
I mean, you acknowledge me as as a whole person, where Jesse had alluded to. He was basically by himself here, and so there's a
you can be flying solo and still have like a flight attendant. I mean, those things aren't in conflict.
Yeah, but you're in the cockpit by yourself, and that's not what was happening last week. So, as Jesse mentioned, it is proper January. It's a sunny January day here on this Friday, 3 days before you guys are getting to hear it. I had some very disappointed kids this week. They were really excited because somebody on the Weather Channel or something said the word snow out loud, and they're like, "We're missing school," and it's like, "Well, I'm thinking, guys." So the hardest task as a parent is to temper those expectations when snow is flirted with in the long-term outlook.
Yeah, the city this week sent out a press release about how they were prepared for snow and for all bad weather and all. And I looked at it and went, wait a minute. I don't recall seeing that bad weather in the forecast. And so I looked at the forecast and went, well,
it's cold.
It's cold, and we might get some flurries. But of course, the city is conditioned, as some in media are. The mere mention of the S word is enough to set off a panic. So we didn't mention it. We said, well, my thoughts were, if the forecast was really bad, we'll
let our readers know, just in case they're.
We'll let the readers know, and we'll also let the readers know the city's prepared if the forecast is bad. But and I didn't delete the email, so if we get a forecast of really bad weather coming, I've already got that kind of in hand, unless unless they just sell all the salt between now and the next time it might snow.
Well, you know what it is that we haven't had a real snowfall yet this year. And once we get into wintertime, the city and the county, both their public works offices, they're all geared up. They've got their brine, they've got their salt, they've got their plows and whatever. And so they're always and I remember this from working in city communications, you're always kind of waiting for that first excuse you get to send out we stand ready to assist the people of our fair town.
Well, okay. Well, there you go. And so while it wasn't in our newsletter this last week, the listeners here can be rest assured that if it does snow, the city's ready.
I want to say one thing about snow days, because I grew up in the wilds of western New York State, and this was in the 1970s when we had real winters. And we lived in an old farmhouse up on a dirt road. This is kind of in the Finger Lakes area. And so we got tons of snow. It took a lot to cancel snow up there because, there were tons of plows. Even a lot of people who just lived in the area, had their own plows on the front of their trucks and so forth. But we still got snow days sometimes. And because we lived up on this hill that often did not get plowed by the county or whoever did it there, we sometimes got our own special individual snow days. There were only about 4 or 5 kids in our grade school that lived on this road. And so there were times where the snow was at a level where they could plow the main roads where most of the people lived. And so they would still run the buses for them. And they would call us and say, we're not sending you a bus. If you want to try to come to school, you can, but we're not going to count it against you. And so we I'll took the day off.
So you went sledding.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll add to my version because I grew up in the semi-wilds of southern Wisconsin, and we never got them because we always had the equipment, and we didn't have hills in that part of Wisconsin anyway. But ours was always cold. The only time we ever got school out was it is literally too dangerous for you to stand out and wait for the bus. It is that cold outside, so stay home. That was my version of snow days in the wilds of more northern places than here.
Yeah.
Well, in the wilds of Roane County, where I grew up, I remember one time I was in middle school, and Kingston, the town I grew up in, is at the base of the Cumberland Plateau, and one winter morning, we had a storm coming in, and the school system decided to be real proactive because it was snowing like crazy in Crossville, which is just 30 minutes west of Kingston, but up on the plateau. And I think it was snowing an inch an hour or something like that. So our school system, being proactive and being concerned about everyone's safety, went ahead and canceled school so that nobody would be out on the roads. They wouldn't have the buses out. People would be driving, everything. Went ahead and canceled school. And I celebrated heartily all that afternoon as I was riding my bicycle in 70-degree weather. For whatever meteorological reason, the storm vented its fury on the top of the plateau and never made it down.
What happens on the plateau stays on the plateau.
I guess so. And so that's an East Tennessee story for no doubt about it. So anyway, since we're spending a lot of time talking about the snow that did not happen, and that's okay. We do have other things, some news to talk about that happened last week. First of all, the state legislature reconvened this past week, and they are culture wars are already breaking out. We'll talk about that a little bit. Anthony Thompson Jr.'s family has apparently reached a settlement with Knoxville Police Department officers who were involved in the fatal shooting of that young man at Austin East High School a few years ago, and that is kind of we believe is the last of the legal issues outstanding from that. The overlook at Beaumont, which is the first new apartment construction at Transforming Western, which is a massive redevelopment of the Western Heights housing project and its surrounding area. The Overlook opened this past week, and lots of officials there, and we were there as well. Also, the Knoxville Police Department has started deploying its surveillance cameras that are going to help feed data to the Real-Time Information Center. And we'll talk about those cameras and what's going to go on with the Real-Time Information Center, and when you might know that when you go through certain intersections, you'll be on camera. Of course, you already are for the most part in lots of places anyway, but these will be the official KPD cameras. We'll start out talking about a very familiar subject for the past few months, and that's the Juvenile Services Center and its management. The board overseeing the center, which is the official name is the Richard L. Bean Juvenile Service Center. Nobody is calling it that anymore, even though that is the name. They are studiously avoiding that because, as listeners know, Richard Bean, who had managed the place since the 70s, resigned last year after he came under scrutiny for firing a whistleblower, and so then the transition began, and there were lots of problems there. The County Technical Assistance Service at the University of Tennessee identified nearly 100 shortcomings of the center, and across the board, from healthcare to the food service, to security problems, to staffing, to documentation, all these things. The board, the county formed a board, 5-person board. They hired an interim superintendent who abruptly resigned, and then but they are overseeing the management of it. And on a short-term basis, the long-term solution was going to be, and is, technically it still is scheduled to be, the Knox County Sheriff's Office taking over on July 1st. However, the current sheriff, Tom Spangler, is getting ready to leave office. He will, if this went through, he would take over on July 1st, and then on September 1st or 2nd, when the new sheriff takes office, because Spangler couldn't run for re-election because of term limits, the new sheriff would take office, and the candidates for sheriff are really kind of not really wanting to take that on. And so the board was looking at alternatives. Larson J., who's the chairman of the board and also county commissioner, also running for county mayor, studied some other options, and the option that they have decided to recommend to county commission is that the juvenile court judge, Tim Irwin, currently, would take over the management of the service center, the detention facility, or in addition to the responsibilities of juvenile judge. So they last week voted to make that a formal recommendation to the Knox County Commission. Irwin, it's kind of interesting. He previously said, well, he has some concerns about, the judge who puts the kids in the facility, and then, also managing that facility. And he said, it's a lot of power for one person to have, and he still has those concerns, but they decided that he's on board with it. So I mean, despite
it's
those
kind of
concerns,
like in the absence of anybody else wanting to take it on or having the ability to. I mean, at least Irwin obviously knows in great detail the operations of the court and the center and everything that goes into it.
Yeah, and in fact, it was one of the funny things that was said at that meeting is Judge Irwin said, "Well, nobody's beating down the doors to run this facility," and that's true. It's not, the sheriff doesn't want to do it. This oversight board kind of doesn't want to do it. They're doing it, but they would prefer something else, a different model. And so what they are proposing is that the judge, and for the next several years, it would be Irwin who's in that position, but the judge would kind of oversee the management. There would be a day-to-day, supervisor for the facility, and there also would be an oversight board that an advisory board that would replace this oversight board. But the advisory board would be made up of several people with expertise. It would have someone with in the juvenile mental health realm, and someone in juvenile social services, someone with expertise in the juvenile legal system. It also would have a county commissioner who would be named by the commission, a county resident, just a regular county resident, an appointee by the Knox County mayor, and a representative of the Knox County Health Department. And so that board would be an advisory board, but they would make recommendations and coordinate management needs with the judge moving forward. At least that is the plan. And, you got to remember that overall this is supposed to be overseen on a regulatory level by Department of Children's Services and the Tennessee Commission on Children and Youth. Of course, DCS has been in charge for a long time and hasn't been, and there's still been a lot of problems. In fact, there was a recent state report suggesting that the statute giving DCS its authority be strengthened so that they can actually take action. They can actually do something about problems they find in juvenile detention
because
facilities.
One thing that came out was they had notified, being the former director of the center, of various violations, and seemingly that never really produced much of anything.
It did not produce anything. They basically said you're out of compliance, and they said, okay, thanks.
Right.
Thanks for letting us know. And
one question about this, you mentioned the name at the beginning. Has there been any, since being obviously left under pressure and a cloud, let's say, has there been any discussion about revisiting that name? Or do you think the hope is just that, maybe in a couple of years, people won't really remember all of this anyway, and we'll just leave the name on there?
Well, CTAS, the UT agency that took an in-depth look at the report, said one of the things that they mentioned was, you really need to change the culture, and changing the culture can start with changing the name, and suggested changing the name to the Knox County Regional Juvenile Service Center. And while no one has actually discussed it and proposed it, in the day-to-day activities, that's what they're doing. Right. They're just calling it the Knox County Juvenile Service Center. They're not using the name. Of course, the name is on the building, literally on the building, and that hasn't changed. So I think one of the issues there is, as longtime observers of Knox County government know Richard Bean and his late wife Lillian ran the Bean Machine, and a very powerful Republican patronage operation that a lot of people in county government literally owe their jobs to Richard Bean. So I think there has been a reluctance to criticize Bean directly. Yeah, it's all been,
which was clearly part of the problem in terms of allowing things to get to the state that they did.
Yeah, and in fact, this kind of entered into the discussion. This part did enter into the discussion of the advisory board, because the previous oversight board, when Bean was there, was made up mostly of his pals, his friends, and they basically appear to have just let him run it.
A captured board, they call that.
Well, so that board was disbanded, and the current oversight board was formed. But one of the things that came up in this discussion is originally Jay's proposal for this new advisory board was going to have 5 members, 4 of them appointed by Judge Irwin. And it kind of, when in the discussion, I believe it was Shane Jackson, he said, we don't want history to repeat itself. Or no, it was Terry Hill. So we don't want history to repeat itself. So there's a danger there. So they did decide to add 2 more. Irwin still is going to be the one to appoint the experts to the panel. As I mentioned, one person's going to be appointed by the Knox County mayor. One will be a county commissioner, and another will be a representative from the Knox County Health Department. All of those, none of those would be appointed by Irwin, and all of them would be confirmed by Knox County Commission. So, they're trying to keep they're trying to keep the board, this new advisory board, from being taken captive. So now none of this is set in stone. This is a proposal. It is going to go to county commission in February. And they'll have to vote. It's an ordinance, requires 2 readings. So it'll go to county commission in February and then again in March. And with the idea that if county commission approves it, and you got to remember this, the current oversight board that approved this is made up of 5 county commissioners. There are 11 county commissioners, so they really only need 1 more to vote with them. But if it gets approved, then Irwin would kind of assume the duties of manager of the facility, the detention facility, on April 1st. Mm-hmm. So now that this could be tweaked a little bit, they still have to actually write the resolution or the ordinance, and pretty much get that set in stone before they take it to county commission. But that should happen in February. Another aspect of the justice system is of course, the Knoxville Police Department, and they are gearing up to open their real-time information system center, and of course, it is going to be kind of a big data center or video center where video feeds from cameras across the city come in and can be used by KPD for various things. The city has authorized buying 10 cameras, the first of which went up last week at the intersection of Chapman Highway and Moody Avenue, but they'll be up at 10 different intersections across the city once they install them.
And are these intersections where there are a lot of traffic accidents or other kinds of incidents?
Yes. What they did is to identify those intersections, they did take crash data, crime data, all kinds of data like that. And by the way, the city just got recognized for their use of data by the Bloomberg Philanthropies. But it's very much data driven as far as that goes. And anyone who is either from South Knoxville or familiar with South Knoxville knows that the Moody Chapman intersection is a pretty dangerous one. Now the cameras are, of course, they're mounted on power poles. They're pretty high up. You wouldn't, unless you were looking for them, you wouldn't know where they're there. I was there yesterday. Went down there yesterday, put eyeballs on it, and it's, you got to know what you're looking for. And now they have these signs that they have mounted with the camera, identifying it as a police camera. Of course, the problem is from street level, it's almost impossible to read. I mean, it is for someone with an old guy like me with weak eyes. Now, some 25-year-old Scott could have probably might have been able to read it, but 60-year-old Scott can't. So anyway, so it's in. The other 9 are going to be going in the coming months. And
these are not red light cameras.
No.
So it's not like if you run a red light at one of these intersections, they're not going to write you a ticket. That's not what they're for.
No, they're not. They're not for running a red light or speeding or anything else like that. What they are designed to do is, and this is very important too. Their KPD says they are not going to use these as kind of routine surveillance cameras, in the sense that someone would be assigned to watch the feeds constantly.
Right. It's not the panopticon where somebody's sitting there 24 hours a day watching all of these.
Yeah. Well, first of all, they don't have the manpower. They only have 2 people assigned to this unit. But you don't want, however many you have there, you don't want them staring at a video screen for something where an actual crime might occur once every 6 months in that particular camera. So what this is for is to help investigators after the fact. Let's say, since we're in South Knoxville, we don't want to give anybody any ideas, but let's say someone decides to rob the Kroger just south of this intersection, and then they're going to make their getaway. It's not going to, this camera wouldn't see them at Kroger, wouldn't see any of that. But what it would pick up, presumably, is if they were trying to get away going north toward the city, whether the car went through the intersection and stayed on Chapman Highway, or turned on to Moody, and so possibly could have gotten to.
Could it also pick up the license plate?
They might be able to pick up the license plate, but this is the idea is you have witnesses at Kroger who might have a description of the car, maybe a license plate. The description of the car comes through the intersection. They look to see which way it goes. If it goes toward town, see, they can go to private entities and ask, and which is what they do now, and request that they provide their video cameras.
Stores that have cameras in their parking lot.
So this is really, this isn't designed to be, Big Brother catches criminals. It's designed to, Big Brother helps with the investigation. So
and it has still generated a certain amount of skepticism and cautionary comments from
yeah,
the public I see on social media.
Well, one of the things is it's first of all it's inherently creepy for the government to be surveilling you. Of course, they already do. In the grand scheme of things in the United States, if you're in public, you have no expectation of privacy. Period. Anybody, a private citizen, a business, law enforcement agency, anybody can take photos or videos of anybody anywhere in public. That is just the way it is. I mean, I've had people yell at me for taking pictures of them.
Oh yeah. I've had to explain that,
and I've had
that
to explain
part of the Constitution to people a couple of times.
And but there is something, because I mean, just the very phrase that we use, "Big Brother." There is something inherently, I think, in Americans, this idea that the police could be watching you is a very disturbing for many people thing, and so yes, there are concerns. I mean, KPD is, and they realize that. I mean, when Thomas Frazier, one of our correspondents, did the story, but I also talked to Scott Irwin, the spokesperson for the police department, about it, and he really emphasized that that people need to realize we're not going to sit there and and monitor these 24/7 for things that happen on camera. I mean, when you think about it, it's right. I mean, the intersection of Chapman and Moody is a dangerous intersection. It is a very well traveled intersection. If you are going to be, a getaway driver going in any direction is going to probably go through that intersection in South Knoxville, and so it would, it is a logical place to put one of these, and their data apparently shows that yes, it is a good place to put them, but the actual crimes that would occur, within the field of the video are very limited.
Right. It is just an intersection.
It is just, in fact, it's at that intersection, there is the Walgreens there.
Yep.
And while I can't really tell, and from the way it's oriented, I don't know that it would capture anything that happened. It might maybe in the parking lot.
Right.
But nothing, inside or anything else like that of the Walgreens. And Walgreens is right there. I mean, it's right on that intersection. This is, there's a Weigels there as well, and I don't think it would capture anything that happened in that Weigels. But it would also help with things like, since it is a dangerous intersection, it would help with, car wrecks that involved bodily injury or death, things like that.
Crash investigations.
Yeah, it would help with crash investigations, all kinds of things. They're also going to use them, for, response in weather events and things like that. With the snow that we didn't have this week. So now, one of the things is when we talk about how they're using them, the KPD is developing. They have a committee in the department. They are developing policies and protocols for the use of the cameras, use of the data, the retention of the data, all these things. This system will not be turned on until that policy is in place, according to KPD, and they are going to publicly post that policy and notify the public when the system goes live, because this camera's up there, but it's not live. It's just in place, getting ready to be turned on. Now, one thing about the Real-Time Information Center that is also they are also talking about is that private businesses, even residences, could also have their videos fed into the network.
So if you have a camera, you can basically sign up and feed information to Big Brother.
Yes. Well, and it would go for, shopping malls. For example, I don't know if Westtown is going to be involved in this.
What if you have a Ring camera and you just want to spy on your neighbor
You've
and
got
send that to KPD?
Well, actually, I did some look into that. The particulars of that part of it is there are some rules on, like, it has to be out facing. There can't be anything inside a building, is what I was told to understand it. Yeah. And there are hardware requirements that make it a little dicey. If I understand the hardware requirements of cloud-based systems, which would be the Ring camera, would not be eligible.
No, they wouldn't. And that's one of the things is you've got. That's why I kind of said perhaps some residential cameras, but for the you've got to have you've got to be compatible with their system, and Ring cameras aren't.
Right.
And so, but businesses could do that.
We assume those little pop-up, the trailer they have, the little telescoping trailer they have is probably hooked up to the system. Or will be hooked up to the system when it gets rolling.
That's well, they've already they've already got that that video. I mean, they don't have to really hook that in. All they've got to do is go, grab it.
I jumped to the conclusion that there will be people watching it from time to time.
Well, there will be. I mean, there's going to be somebody in the center. I mean, it's going to be, it's going to look like, kind of the, in a big, office building, security room that you always see on TV because you never see those in real life. But they have monitors up, and these will have, this center will have monitors up. They will be able to go.
Right, because it makes sense.
They will be able to go and technically they would be able to monitor the intersection of Chapman and Moody.
But mostly it's going to be really boring for it.
But it's going to be really boring, and they don't. They want these officers to be more productive. But it would make sense
that if the dispatch gets a call in an area that person hears that call sitting in the real-time crime center, they can then look up at the monitors that are closely related to that and see if they can see anything that's happening.
Absolutely,
around that call.
Yeah,
so it does make sense that they would have somebody in the room.
Yes,
for that occasion.
Yes, that is the case. When
I'm one of those people Jesse was talking about that's not a big fan of this thing, so
I
have a lot of questions.
Yeah, well, it's one of the things that I found is that they are very open to answering questions. Now, whether like I said, it's still kind of it's just kind of creepy to have.
Well, and of course, that's
not very technical. But
this is new for Knoxville, but there are a lot of cities that already have fairly robust public security cameras. Of course, in London's the one that everybody talks about, where they have their quote unquote ring of steel, and that if you're in sort of anywhere on the street in central London, you're on camera. And they can, if they need that, and I think it's the same sort of thing where they pull things as needed. They're not like monitoring however many cameras they have in real time.
Right.
But there are definitely plenty of places, both in the United States and outside it, where if you're out in public, you are on a government camera. And already, as you're saying, in the United States, even like in your average neighborhood, because a lot of people do have Ring cameras and things like them, just walking down your neighborhood street, you are probably on somebody's video.
I am on my neighbor across the street. I'm on his cameras every time I walk out my front door because he has security cameras there. He's got a reason, but he's got security cameras there. Records.
I mean, he lives across the street from you.
He lives directly. Well, yeah.
Got to keep an eye on you.
But for instance, several years ago, we had an incident where someone came up and stole furniture off of our front porch. Well, he had the video camera, so we got him to provide the video feed to KPD when we reported the incident. Of course, nothing ever happened from it.
Did you get your furniture back?
We did not. It was kind of, and I saw the video. It's very difficult to identify a person there.
You can see somebody stole your furniture, which you already knew.
I knew two guys, and I recognize them because I spend a lot of time on my front porch. There are a lot of people who walk up and down the street where I live, and I recognized their sizes and builds and those kinds of things. So I had a pretty good idea who it was.
Except you don't know who they are.
I don't know who they are. Don't know exactly where they live. I know they live to the east of me in my neighborhood, or did. I haven't seen them since. So
That's right. They sold your porch furniture and retired to
either that or they just took a different route. Took a different route to Broadway every day. I don't know, but it's been several years. But anyway, yeah. I mean, you're on camera all the time, and some of the this is for Jesse and for me. We're going to see this, because there are going to be 3 of these cameras installed on Broadway.
Woo!
And the closest one to us is at McCroskey, which is the entrance to the Broadway Shopping Center.
Yeah.
And
they've
there's a lot of
pretty
activity.
regularly had that little telescoping thing I was talking about earlier in that parking lot for a long time.
Yeah. They have a mobile command center with that they often park there.
Yeah.
This would be on that intersection. One of the things about that intersection is that there's a bus stop there that it's heavy use. There are people who are homeless in the area. That is an intersection where people quite frequently are struck by vehicles. It is a very, very dangerous area for pedestrians, and there are a lot of pedestrians there. And it's also right around the corner from Fulton High School, so there are a lot of kids in that area as well. So, but anyway, there's they're going to be. We have a list in the email in our email report, a list of the places, and one of them is Broadway McCroskey. So the excuse me. Another city initiative that has nothing to do with law enforcement was highlighted earlier in the week as well. The Overlook at Beaumont opened. It's a one of those ribbon cuttings that they like to have. It was this is a 72 unit apartment building or apartment complex that is part of the Transforming Western initiative, which is a massive initiative to revamp the Western Heights housing project, which is the city's oldest public housing. One of the oldest. It's the largest.
Yeah, and it's one of the oldest now because they have already over the last couple of decades, KCDC has updated many and redeveloped many of the older ones, like the ones in Mechanicsville and Walter P. Taylor and Austin Homes. Right,
and most of those were built right around the same time. And but this is definitely the oldest that had not been addressed. They got a $40 million federal grant to help finance this. There are all kinds of financing mechanisms going into it. The city is paying for infrastructure, but this is the first of 6 new apartments. Now, they've already renovated a bunch of the older ones, but this is the first new tranche of apartments, and it was kind of interesting too. It was one of the. I mean, these events tend to be very self-congratulatory. Everybody acknowledges everyone else's efforts. They all pat each other on the back. It's very perfunctory and very, they'll talk about the importance of policy. Harumph. This was kind of interesting because when Mayor India Kincannon spoke, she was very emotional, practically broke down while she was speaking. It was very, she is a very policy oriented, kind of just the facts kind of person when she speaks in public. She was very moved by this. It was very interesting to watch. In fact, at one point, she almost couldn't continue. The representative from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development reached up and gave her his handkerchief. But she was, the reason she was moved is she said that she was recounting a story when she went as a school board member in the early 2000s, went to Western Heights, on a thing where they went to speak with family, people with with their children in Knox County schools and all, and that was her district. In fact, Beaumont Elementary was the school where her children were zoned to go to. She was describing the absolute squalor of the apartments in the area, litter on the streets, and she almost broke down talking about cockroaches climbing the walls of these apartments where these children were living and getting ready to go. And she said that, in fact, that was one of the things that motivated her to run for mayor, was to be able to hopefully, she hoped to be able to do something to help that, and looked at this project as being, one of the things that she'd been able to do to address what she saw as a problem. But it's kind of interesting to see, public officials don't often do that, but it was, and it these apartments are pretty nice. They've got all stainless steel appliances, and some of them have great views. I mean, one of the things that people don't realize about Western Heights is it's got great views.
It's called Heights for a reason.
Yeah, views of downtown Knoxville and the Smoky Mountains beyond. It's one of those things where if this hadn't been built in the 1940s and occupied that space, developers would be falling all over themselves to build luxury apartment buildings up there. So,
speaking of, it's also worth mentioning that, of course, there's a new school going in right up on top of the hill there.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. The one of the concepts behind transforming Western is to make it more than an apartment complex, a huge apartment complex, and so they wanted to create a sense of community. There's a and they're going to have amenities, and they're going to have parks. They're going to have the phase 2, which is the second of the new apartment complexes within the complex, is going up down the street from Overlook, and it's going to contain a health clinic and the community space. There's also going to be space for KPD to be there for security, because, as many people know, that has been a high crime area at times. But one of these, this is a component that kind of fell into their lap, is that the new K through 8 school that is going to be built at the site of the former rural high school, which now this particular, the Overlook is at the northern end of Western Heights. It's on the edge of Vermont Avenue, and right across Vermont Avenue from this apartment complex is the old rural site. So this will be right there. It will be a community school, and of course there is a school on the other side of Western Heights, Beaumont Elementary, or Beaumont Magnet Academy, and it's going to close, and its students will be going to this new school. But this will be a brand new school to go with these brand new apartments that Ben Bentley, the head of KCDC, and Mayor Kincannon, talked about as being, kind of an integral part of the community. So it's not technically part of Transforming Western, but it's going to be an integral part of Transforming Western. So, of course, that's going to, believe it's going to open in 2029, which will coincide with the final construction of the Transforming Western. So that should be completed in the next few years. At that meeting, one of the things that Bentley said too, and this is kind of important for the community aspect of it, from his perspective, is that this isn't just low income. That the vast majority of these apartments are subsidized or set aside for low income residents, but some are going to be market rate, and by market rate they don't mean downtown market rate or West Knoxville market rate. They mean more market rate for the Northwest Knoxville community. But the idea there is to have a mix of incomes to kind of I think it addresses some of the stigma that can be associated with public housing, and just makes for a more diverse mix of residents. They're doing it's the same model they're following at First Creek at Austin. So that's something that they're looking forward to. They were had the ribbon cutting, and residents are already moving in. The most of the residents there at Overlook at Beaumont are going to be people who had already lived in Western Heights, and these are just going to be new digs in their old neighborhood, but very nice ones. So we'll continue to follow that. This is a years long. I believe it was 2020, I believe, when they first announced Transforming Western. So it's been going for 6 years. We've got another 4 years or so to go. So.
Is there another major development out there that would be sort of next in line with this? I'm trying to think if there are any of the major KCDC developments at this point that haven't been touched by redevelopment in the last, say, 30 years.
The only one I can think of, and I don't know, I might be wrong about it, would be Montgomery Village in South Knoxville.
Right, yeah.
The ones, of course, College Homes was demolished and replaced, and a lot of single family homes and duplexes.
Same in Lonsdale.
And same in Lonsdale. Similar in 5 Points. And then of course First Creek at Austin. All of the ones that there's another one. The name of it escapes me. It is just on Central Avenue, or
north of Sharps Ridge.
North of Sharps Ridge on Bruin.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
Because the name changed when they did the
redevelopment. It has been.
Yeah.
It has been addressed. So most of their properties have, and so this is. But this is also, other than what they did with College Homes is probably the most dramatic one. I mean, the one they did with College Homes was they completely did away with
and that was
the
that
apartments.
Really kind of kicked off this wave of redevelopment of public housing in Knoxville.
It did, and I remember, of course, when they did that, there was a lot. It was pretty controversial, but one of the things that it did is it did reduce crime in Mechanicsville, and one of the things is when you concentrate extreme poverty in one area, there is a correlation and probably causation between poverty and crime, and when they basically what that did is it dispersed the poverty. It didn't automatically make people wealthy, but they did. It did reduce the number in that one locale and dispersed the others to other parts of the city. and reduce crime in that area. So, there's more to this than crime reduction. It's the primary focus is to provide housing and housing with dignity to low income residents. And like I said, this was the first of 6 of the new apartment complexes that will be built as part of Transforming Western. So, one of the other things that happened this week is the family of Anthony Thompson Jr. settled with police officers. Apparently, has settled with Knoxville police officers who were involved in his fatal shooting back in 2020 again.
2021.
2021.
Yeah.
And Thompson was a 17-year-old student at Austin East Magnet High School. Got into an incident with his girlfriend at the time. Girlfriend and mother reported him to KPD. They went to arrest him, found him in the restroom of the school, went in there. He was armed. They got into he did not pull the weapon and point it at officers, but he had a weapon, and they got into a tussle.
Basically, there was a struggle. His gun went off.
His gun did go off.
We don't know the exact circumstances of that. There is no video of that one.
Yeah.
I mean, there were body cams, but you couldn't actually see. You couldn't see what happened when his gun was fired. But the result of it was that then a KPD officer fired and killed him. His family has, they sued. The officers were cleared in an investigation of wrongdoing. They said the shooting was justified because his weapon did go off. So they were cleared of wrongdoing criminally. The family sued, alleging that they violated Thompson's civil rights. All those claims were dismissed except for one, and it was claimed that they did not promptly administer first aid to Thompson once he had been shot. And and it is, I mean, and you look at the video, he's shot, he's there, and nobody really is doing anything. Well, and that may have been partly because one of the officers was also shot, not by Thompson, but by the officer who did the shooting, also hit one of his colleagues, not fatally, but KPD may have been distracted by taking care of him rather than
but
Thompson.
there were 5 KPD officers in there. The officer who actually did the shooting, there was another a friend of Thompson's in the restroom. In fact, this is kind of one of the things that kind of gets glossed over. He had just shot Thompson, and the other youth either looked like you can't really see him in the body cam, but you can see the shaking. Nearly, he was shaking him from behind on the shoulders, and the officer whipped around, and he still had his, he had all this adrenaline pumping. He already had his weapon out, pointed it at the kid, and said, get on the floor, and could just as easily have shot him. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, that just kind of I think that does show the kind of level of training, and that he did restrain himself from shooting someone right after he just discharged his weapon. So, but it's neither here nor there. There were several minutes went by before they got help for Thompson. Now this claim was filed in federal court. There was a document filed that made a reference to the settlement, which was apparently reached on January 7th. It's the filing, the document had to do with some another party that wanted to intervene in the case and yada yada. But it made reference to the settlement. The settlement itself is not part of the record yet. So we don't know how much how much the settlement was. I'm sure that no one's going to admit fault, in all this, because that's boilerplate language. But there is a settlement, and that should be, to my knowledge, is the last, kind of legal, outstanding legal aspect of this case. That was, just a tragedy for many, and
prompted weeks of protests at the time, protest against KPD, protest against District Attorney General Sharm Allen for not charging any of the officers. I mean, it was fairly volatile.
Yeah, it was, and there was a lot of outrage in the community, and for months after that, and that's for many in the community that those are kind of a wound that hasn't healed, and this doesn't. They're still from time to time there will be a meeting where somebody will, especially when they're talking about some issue with KPD, they will mention Anthony Thompson Jr. again, and so it's a very polarizing moment in the recent city history. That also happened, of course, at a time when there were a lot of African American youth who were getting, I think, were 5 shot during that time. Gun violence was rampant and at the time. In fact, but one thing that city officials will say is, we've taken steps and worked with the community and reduced the amount of gun violence in the area. So, it's one of and it did, it prompted a lot of reflection on policies and procedures, and
both
not only
with the police department and also with the school system.
Knox County schools, yeah. So I'm sure that it's safe to say that no one in the community wants to go through anything like that again. So one last thing we'll talk about that happened last week: Tennessee Legislature came back into session and got off to a roaring start, did they, Jesse? Jesse kind of keeps tabs on some of the things that go on in the legislature for us.
Yeah, they came back into session last Tuesday and got right to it. They had a bill. This was the State House. Had a bill that was left over from last year. It had been referred for study, which is something they will do with bills when there's some opposition to them or they want more information on it. But they came back, and on the very first day, the State House did pass this bill, and they're you could say they're picking right up where they left off, because they're you might remember a few years ago, the very first set of bills that the legislature passed were aimed at restricting LGBTQ rights. And in that case, it had to do with gender-affirming care for minors. And one of those bills led to this past year's Supreme Court decision in the case of Skermeti that affirmed the Tennessee law and therefore affirmed that states across the country, according to the Supreme Court, can restrict gender-affirming care for minors. This bill is not, it is about minors to some degree, but not in the same way. It's aimed at drag performances. And you might be thinking, I thought they already banned those, because that was another bill that the legislature passed a couple of years ago. They did pass a bill that restricted certain kinds of drag performances in certain places. And I feel like there's still a lot of public confusion out there, including among journalists in the state, because I see people write about this. the impression that you will get is that Tennessee banned drag shows and that was upheld in court. That's not quite right, because actually if you read that bill, it doesn't say it bans all drag shows, even all drag shows in public. It says it bans obscene drag shows in public. And it actually relies on existing state definitions of obscenity, which, really get into, it has to be sexually provocative, explicit, et cetera, et cetera. Many drag shows are not actually that, which is the reason that the law so far has been upheld, because the one group out of Memphis that challenged that law puts on theatrical performances that include drag, and they are all ages shows, so they are open to minors. So they sued, saying this law is going to restrict what we can do. The court looked at that, the Court of Appeals, Sixth Circuit, and said, no, this law doesn't actually do that. It only restricts obscene performances, and you're saying that your performances aren't obscene, so you don't even have standing to challenge this law. And, a lot of this hinges on some kind of sleight of hand that the legislature has done on this issue, which appears again in this bill that they passed this past week, which is, on the one hand, you have a bunch of people, and these are culturally conservative Republicans in the supermajority, who very clearly want to, they're offended by drag. They're offended by men dressing up as women, women dressing up as men. They find it morally troubling. They think there's something inherently wrong with this, and that it is not something that should be allowed to be seen in public, basically, and that people need to be protected from. However, it's very hard to pass a law under the First Amendment, under existing definitions of obscenity, that just actually does what they really want to do, which is to just say, we don't want drag shows, or if you are going to have them, they have to be hidden away somewhere. So they talk about it as if they're banning drag, but then the way the laws are written, they're still relying on these existing definitions of obscenity that have all these extra things that you would have to show, that it's not just the fact that somebody's in drag that is making it obscene. So the existing drag ban, if you go to the ACLU of Tennessee page, they have a whole page about this that makes clear that despite what you might think, and despite what many reporters in this state keep writing, even though it's incorrect, Tennessee has not banned drag. It has not even banned drag in public. It has banned obscene performances in public, which were already illegal even before they passed that law, which is why we've continued to have drag shows in public even after that law was passed. At the Knox Pride, they have drag shows at World's Fair Park. When they do Sono Pride on Sevier Avenue, they have outdoor drag shows in public, because those haven't been banned by that bill. So now here comes another bill that is basically saying that any venue of any kind that hosts drag shows, even if it's only once a year, if you host one drag show a year, your venue, whether it's a bar or a theater or a restaurant or community center, whatever it is, would be classified by the state now as an adult-oriented business. And that's a category that was essentially created for strip clubs and, adult bookstores, to the degree that adult bookstores still exist. I guess there's still that one out off of Lovell Road. At least the billboards are still there on I-40. Those are restricted by zoning, and among other things, they cannot be within 1,000 feet of churches, schools, parks, or residences. So the idea with those was to kind of literally put them out in the middle of nowhere where kind of nobody's going to see them by accident. And so what this is saying is that any place that hosts even one drag show a year would be classified like a strip club, like an adult bookstore. And that could have pretty broad impacts because, as some of our listeners may know, we co-publish every week with our friends at Blank, the Knoxville Mix local calendar listing of events. And I help put that together every week. And there's a lot of drag shows in Knoxville. Of course, there are a couple of gay clubs in Knoxville that host drag, which is kind of where the art form of drag as we know it was really incubated. But drag shows have long since moved outside of gay clubs. Of course, we've got, RuPaul has had his Drag Race TV show, big hit TV show. It's been on the air now for, I think, 15 years or so. And it has become a very popular, one could say, mainstream form of entertainment. So over the course of the past year, there have been drag shows at the Bijou Theater. In previous years, the Tennessee Theater has hosted drag shows. The Knoxville Civic Auditorium, owned by the city of Knoxville, just hosted the Christmas drag show a couple days after Christmas. And then there are a bunch of other bars and clubs that are not gay bars that also do regular drag, including one that we know about in Happy Holler. Right, Seth? And
we classify ourselves as gay bar adjacent.
Right, that's right. I mean, you are literally adjacent to a gay bar, but you also host drag shows at the Pirate Tavern.
We do from time to time. And I think the main takeaway here is that distance from residency rule is every place you've listed so far, including mine, including probably both of the two major gay clubs in town, would fall within that 1,000 feet.
Also, those downtown theaters, also the Civic Auditorium, which is right across the street from housing.
It's surrounded on three sides.
Surrounded on three sides by housing.
The question I have on it, because I haven't gotten to dig deep into the bill yet, is it like, how are they, like, is it the obscene drag as Memphis as referenced in the old bill, or is it some new definition of drag that literally, is it something that a promoter promoting an event at the Bijou, for example, says, we're going to do this drag show. And by the title being a drag show, does that therefore make it a violation? Or is it just like, that's this
bill
detail.
Appears, and of course it could still it passed the House on their very first day back. This was their literal first order of business to set the tone for this session. It passed the House. It has not advanced in the Senate. And that's the kind of thing that could maybe get clarified in the Senate, if it passes the Senate. We don't know if it will. But at the moment, it certainly suggests that if you host a show that includes male or female impersonators, as the law defines this, it doesn't actually use the word drag, that would qualify you as an adult-oriented business. And so, essentially, this could make it very hard for anybody to host a drag show most places in Knoxville.
Because I think the previous bill and this one, regardless of the definition, is going to have the cooling effect of, I'm more in tune to it because I get to work with you guys, and that I understand the very specifics of it. But if it's just one of those kind of once a year events that you put on, that you enjoy doing and aren't super close to following it, you're going to be like, well, they banned it. We can't do that event anymore, even if they technically can.
Yeah.
It's very likely that places will just avoid it because they're not 100% confident in their ability to pull this off without having some legal issue in the future.
Well, and that's why I think, like, if this does pass the Senate, I think you can count on there being another lawsuit. And as I said, with the existing quote-unquote drag ban that isn't really a drag ban, the central issue of, can the state literally say you can't have a theatrical production where a man dresses up as a woman? Like, can the state legally, under the Constitution and the First Amendment, actually say that? If this bill passes in that form and appears to make that restriction, then I think we would get another lawsuit, and maybe we would eventually get a court ruling on whether or not the state can actually do that, which they have not ruled on yet. So anyway, yes, that's where the legislature started. They're quickly moving on to other issues, including immigration, which we'll probably talk about a little bit next week. And one thing to mention about this legislative session is that because this is an even-numbered year, which means it's a year where we are on a state election cycle, all of the members of the state House of Representatives are up for re-election, and half of the state Senate seats are up. So these years tend to be the shorter legislative sessions because there's a lot of pressure in Nashville for them to wrap up their business so everybody can get back to fundraising and campaigning, which they're not allowed to do while they're in session. So that's where things stand in Nashville.
All right. Well, before we move on to the things that are happening this week, did want to make one note. We had a brief piece in our newsletter about a settlement that Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti made with Metropolis Technologies, which is the operator of manager of parking lots, and Metropolis all throughout. They've got them throughout the state. Have 3 parking lots in Knoxville that they manage. The settlement is the company has to pay $8.75 million to cover refunds and all kinds of stuff that they owe consumers for all kinds of things that they did. One of the things that kind of came up is that we reported this, and apparently people thought that this had something to do with publicly owned, specifically city-owned parking garages and parking. It did not. In case you're wondering, these are private parking lots, parking facilities that Metropolis manages, and has nothing to do with the city. So I think our public servants of the city had to field some phone calls about that. So we thought it was clear that these were privately owned lots. Apparently, some people did not realize that, but rest assured, this settlement has nothing to do with any of the city or county owned parking garages downtown. Anyway,
and also pro tip: don't park in those private lots. I know, like some of them are close and convenient to places, and so there are people for whom it is the easiest option. But there's a ton of much cheaper and on nights and weekends free public parking around downtown. So the best way to avoid the hassle that can come with those private lots is to just not park in them.
Yeah, and that was the whole point of this. These things. The state attorney general's office had fielded more than 300 complaints from people about this.
They can be pretty predatory, those private lots.
Well, and one of the things that they have to stop doing is sending out notices to people on letterhead that looks like government letterhead. So their signage has been apparently substandard, or at least confusing. Again, it's one of those app things, so goodness knows what the little app thing, how that does. Anyway, so they had a lot of problems that you can avoid, like you said, by just going to one of the publicly owned parking garages and park for free at night, and at a lower price during weekdays. So anyway, that's everything that we're going to talk about from last week. Of course, more stuff happened that we reported in our newsletter and on our website, and you can, if you want to subscribe and get that kind of stuff, you can get it at compassknox.com. Coming up this week, MLK Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, is Monday, and public offices will be closed, and so hope that if you don't have to work on MLK Day, that you take the time and enjoy it. Enjoy the holiday. It's the last one we're going to have for a while.
And just to put in a plug for my other podcast, Headlights, Voices from the Progressive South, which you can find on all of your favorite podcast outlets, that will have a sort of MLK Day special on the episode that we are releasing on Monday, that spends some time just actually listening to MLK, listening to some selections from speeches and addresses he made throughout his career. If it's been a while since you have immersed yourself in the actual work and words of Dr. King, as opposed to just the kind of symbolism and mythology, you can find it there.
Oh, that'll be fascinating. It's one of the things that it's get a different perspective when you actually go back to the original source, and hear what people have actually said and what they actually meant. So look forward to that. The public's business picks back up on Tuesday. County Commission is going to be meeting all day in various forms, various committees. The commission as a whole will meet to review their agenda for later this month at 3 p.m. This is all going to be in the small assembly room of the City County building. Usually it's the main assembly. But
City Council has the main assembly room.
City Council, yes. We'll be getting to City Council in just a second. But in addition to reviewing the agenda at 3, at 5 p.m., they will pick up and make final decisions on a variety of zoning matters. That is the exact time that the beer board for the city of Knoxville will meet in the main assembly room. And then City Council will meet at 6 p.m. City Council, the agenda is fairly light, though there is a major contract with the KPD. Is actually an adjustment to an existing contract with Axon Enterprise, which is the provider of their body cams and dashboard cams and data storage for that, all that. They're wanting to adjust the contract up $9.2 million for additional equipment, software needs, things like that. And they need additional equipment because it's kind of good news. KPD's staffing is much higher than it has been in recent years, so they need more equipment. But they're also buying equipment for a drone program. We'll be taking a look at next week, and we will be covering other events and developments across Knoxville and Knox County as they happen. So once again, you can find us online at CompassKnox.com. That'll be it for this week's episode. Jesse, thanks as always.
Happy to be here.
For being here. And Seth, once again, a stellar job. I'm going to say that even though you haven't gone through and cleaned up the uhs and the ahs and made the edits that you make, so make it sound smarter than we are. I want to thank Will Wright for the music for our programming, and we will talk to you again next week on Compass Points.
CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more. And many thanks to William Wright for composing our theme song. Compass Points is a partnership of Barking Shark Media and Barbarian Productions, and recorded by Lord Seth A. Barber at Barbarian Studios, Knoxville, Tennessee.